Hi there, Fit Fam. Today's video is to talk a little bit about something that is a challenge for many of us in this group, and I know has been a personal struggle of my own since I was probably right before I became a teenager. When I was around 9 or 10 years old, I started to develop habits that would stay with me until just a few months ago, and that I sometimes struggle with still, and that is emotional eating. So emotional eating, if you're not familiar with it, is literally just any time that you fill an emotional need by eating. So it could be you want to celebrate something that you've been successful with, that maybe you had a really great workout week, or you were honored or recognized for an award at work, and your first instinct is to celebrate by kind of stuffing yourself silly at a restaurant, or eating a lot of food, or overindulging in something really rich or a dessert. But it also can be filling an emotional need when you're bored or sad, or maybe even angry with someone. Maybe you've gotten into some sort of a rut, or you're upset about something that's happening, and your instinct is to go to the refrigerator or the kitchen and sort of mindlessly eat food. If you're not really sure if you're an emotional eater, you can ask yourself a series of questions. One, do you eat when you're not hungry? You might be an emotional eater if you just find yourself in this habit of eating even though you know you're not hungry. Two, do you find yourself eating even though you're already full? So you already know that you are satisfied, and you're maybe even feeling slightly ill from the amount of food that you've had, yet you continue to eat. Do you feel worse afterwards? So that's the third and final question. After you have this food, you eat this food, do you generally feel worse? Do you regret it? Do you beat yourself up mentally? Do you maybe even engage in the same bad habit again because you almost feel like you should quit or give up with your efforts to eat better? So I just wanted you to think about those questions, because what makes it in the news tends to be people who suffer from anorexia or bulimia, when a far greater number of people in the world actually suffer from binge eating. So binge eating is a form of emotional eating where you consume a high number or amount of calories in a short amount of time. So I wanted to walk you through 5 steps to start to address this, if you're an emotional eater or a binge eater, either one. The first step is identifying what your triggers are. It's a pattern you've created, so you need to think about what foods or what state or what pattern occurs that usually leads to emotional eating. Is it that you're sitting at the house with nothing to do on a Friday night and you feel bad about that? You want to be out with someone or doing something different. So you go to the store and you buy Oreo cookies and a gallon of ice cream, and you sit on the couch and you have a pity party and you're eating the ice cream and the cookies. Or it could be like me. I have a stressful job, and sometimes family life can also be stressful, and I would come home after a long day of work, and I would have gone to the gym or done something, and I would literally sabotage my efforts by having a few glasses of wine. But I wouldn't stop there. I would, after the wine, would say, oh, I should have some crackers and cheese, but I don't have crackers in my house. So I would get a bowl of goldfish crackers from my son's box that we packed in his lunch. And then I would grab a couple of slices of cheese from the fridge, and then why not make it a charcuterie tray? So I'd grab some turkey pepperoni. So I would take these foods where in moderation would be totally fine, and I would end up eating, 1,000 calories in a short amount of time right before bed, between 9:30 or later. So just making yourself aware of the pattern. The second thing you need to do is you need to interrupt the pattern. So for me, that meant I went my very first challenge, an entire 30 days without drinking wine at all. I had to stop what was my trigger, or what was my pattern, or what was the state that I was in, so that I wouldn't engage in those same destructive habits. So it doesn't have to be anything that extreme. You could literally just jump up from the couch and scream out loud if you don't have little ones that you're afraid of waking. But you have to absolutely break that pattern or interrupt that pattern. If it's more of a mental thing, you can try something a little different. I know this is suggested by Tony Robbins, where you imagine whatever those foods are that you like to eat. Let's say it's ice cream and maybe cake, and you picture those foods and what they'll taste like going into your mouth and how delicious they might feel and maybe even the smell of them. And then you literally stop and interrupt and break that pattern by imagining that it's not just the ice cream, that instead your dog just came over and took a huge dump right on top of your bowl, and that cake is now covered in urine, or that ice cream is literally covered in vomit because your dog barfed in it. And you picture instead that you're not eating those foods that are your trigger, and instead that's human feces or something equally disgusting. So I preferred the no wine route than to imagine those things, but however you can interrupt the pattern, then that's going to work. After you interrupt the pattern, you can't just lean on imagining gross things with your food. You have to come up with a new empowering alternative. So what can you do instead of eating that food or having that emotional response? Maybe you can write in a journal or read a book, or like me, make a movie, or work on something to build your business, or go for a walk, or if you're interested in crafts or you have some sort of hobby, then that can be the time that you devote to that. So coming up with a new empowering alternative. A lot of people will replace that bad emotional habit of eating with smoking cigarettes or alcohol, thereby bringing another problem into the mix. So making sure that what you choose to replace that with is something that will benefit you in the long run. And then finally, the mother of all inventions is repetition or practice. So you must do it over and over again, because usually emotionally eating is a habit that you've developed, and repeating your new empowering alternative will build that same habit but in a more positive light. So finally, the last step is to give it a shot. So whatever your trigger, your state, or that food is that is why you find yourself engaging in emotionally eating, try those 5 steps, identify the pattern, break the pattern, come up with a new empowering alternative, and make sure that you practice it. And that's the start for now on emotional eating. We'll have a little more to say about this particular topic as we move further into our challenge. I would like you in the comment section to post one takeaway, something maybe that you identify with in this video, or something you would like to try if you also are someone who struggles from emotional eating. Post it in the comments below. Thanks.